What if I told you a 2,000-year-old shipwreck held a mechanical computer, or that ancient civilizations built sprawling underground cities for 20,000 people? This isn't science fiction. These are real discoveries that challenge our entire understanding of the past. Today, we're counting down the top 10 ancient technologies that just don't seem like they should exist. From impossible stonework to mysterious devices that hint at a forgotten chapter of human history, we're about to see proof that our ancestors were far more advanced than the history books give them credit for. Get ready to have your view of the ancient world turned completely upside down. The Nazca lines kicking off our list in the arid deserts of southern Peru, we find one of the world's most stunning mysteries, the Nazca lines. These aren't just doodles in the sand. They are massive geoglyphs, enormous pictures carved into the earth. The Nazca culture created them between 500 BC and 500 AD by removing the top layer of reddish-brown pebbles to reveal the lighter-colored ground beneath. What makes them an ancient marvel is their incredible scale and precision. The designs cover nearly 400 square kilometers. The figures themselves are huge, with some stretching over 200 feet long. That's almost 4 football fields. They show everything from geometric shapes to over 800 stylized animals like a spider, a hummingbird, and a monkey. The crazy part? You can only truly see what they are from high up in the air. For decades, this has stumped researchers. How did a culture from 2,000 years ago, with no known way to fly, design, and execute such massive, accurate figures? Creating these lines would have required careful planning and a deep understanding of scale. To make a figure look right from the sky, the Nazca people needed a detailed model and a way to scale it up on the ground. This suggests mathematical and organizational skills far beyond what was thought possible for the time. For years, no one could agree on their purpose. Were they astronomical calendars, ritual pathways, or messages to the gods? Thanks to modern tech like drones and AI, we're getting a clearer picture. Researchers from Japan's Yamagata University, working with IBM, have used AI to scan the desert and have uncovered hundreds of previously unknown geoglyphs. One study announced the discovery of 303 new figures, which nearly doubled the number we knew about. Many of these newer finds are smaller and show things like humanoid figures, linking the lines directly to the culture's ritualistic beliefs. But even with these new insights, the big question remains: how did they do it without an aerial view? Was it through complex grid systems, small-scale models, or some form of ancient geometry we just don't understand yet? The Nazca lines are a testament to a technology that was both simple in method, moving rocks, and profoundly complex in execution, a giant question mark carved into the face of the earth. Göbekli Tepe. For generations, the story of civilization was simple. First, we invented farming. Then we settled in villages which grew into cities, and finally we built massive temples. But then, a discovery in southeastern Turkey blew that entire timeline apart. It's called Göbekli Tepe, and it's a form of social engineering so advanced it has forced us to rewrite the first chapter of human history. Unearthed in 1994, Göbekli Tepe is a huge temple complex dating back to around 9600 BCE. To put that in perspective, this site is 7,000 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza and 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It was built when we thought humanity was just small, nomadic bands of hunter-gatherers. Yet, Göbekli Tepe proves that these ancient people could organize on a massive scale to create something monumental. The site is made of large circular enclosures supported by incredible T-shaped limestone pillars. These pillars are the main event, some standing over 18 feet tall and weighing up to 20 tons. They were carved from a nearby quarry with nothing but stone tools, moved hundreds of meters, and set up with stunning precision. This alone was a massive undertaking that would have required hundreds of workers. How did a pre-agricultural society manage to organize and feed a workforce that large? The pillars themselves are covered in detailed carvings of animals, foxes, lions, scorpions, and vultures. These aren't the usual prey animals you'd expect, but predators and scavengers, which suggests a complex symbolic world. Some researchers think the carvings were a way of dealing with a dangerous world, while others believe one pillar, the vulture stone, might even depict a comet strike, suggesting the builders were also keen astronomers. For a long time, the assumption was that Göbekli Tepe was just a ceremonial site for nomads. But recent discoveries are changing that view. Excavations have now found evidence of domestic buildings, grinding stones, and processed food, suggesting people may have lived at the site, at least part-time. This flips the old model on its head. It now seems the shared desire to build this cathedral on a hill might have been the very thing that sparked the invention of agriculture, not the other way around. Supporting the population needed to build the temple may have pushed them to figure out farming. Work in the region continues, and other sites are being discovered that might be even older. Göbekli Tepe is more than just old stones. It's a revolution in social technology. It shows us that 12,000 years ago, our ancestors already had the brain power and social skills to unite for a common goal and engineer something magnificent. The Baghdad Battery, back in 1936, archaeologists digging near Baghdad, Iraq, found a peculiar little artifact. It's a clay pot, about 14 centimeters high, with a copper cylinder inside. In the center of that cylinder is an iron rod, all held together by an asphalt plug. To most people, it looks like a simple pot. But to the archaeologist who found it, Wilhelm König, it looked like something incredible, an ancient electric battery. Dating from somewhere between 150 BC and 650 AD, this object, now famously known as the Baghdad Battery, just shouldn't exist. The battery was officially invented by Alessandro Volta in 1800, almost 2,000 years later. Koenig's theory was simple. If you fill the pot with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, the chemical reaction between the copper and iron would create an electrical charge. And he was right. Replicas of the Baghdad Battery can produce a small electric current, somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 volts. It's not a lot of juice, but it's undeniably electricity. So the million-dollar question is, if it was a battery, what were they using it for? One popular theory is electroplating. König himself noted ancient silver objects from the region that were plated with a thin layer of gold, and he thought these batteries could have been used for that. Modern experiments show it's possible if you wire a few of them together, though it's a very slow process. Another idea proposed by Dr. Paul Kaiser is that they were used for medical purposes. Ancient physicians were known to use electric eels for pain relief. Since there were no electric eels in Mesopotamia's rivers, perhaps the battery was an artificial way to create a similar mild shock for treating ailments. Of course, most mainstream archaeologists are skeptical. They point out that no wires or any other electrical components have ever been found. They also argue that the electroplated artifacts aren't definitively from that period. The prevailing alternative theory is that these pots were simply containers for sacred scrolls. The copper cylinder would have protected the parchment, and any acidic residue could be from the scroll decomposing over the centuries. Sadly, we may never know for sure. The original Baghdad batteries were among the many treasures that went missing from the National Museum of Iraq in 2003, and their location is unknown. We're left with this tantalizing possibility that some forgotten alchemist or healer stumbled upon the secret of electricity nearly 2,000 years before Volta. The Moai of Easter Island, out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, sits one of the most isolated places on Earth, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. It's famous for one thing, the Moai. These are the giant, monolithic human figures carved from volcanic rock that stand guard along the coast. There are nearly 1,000 of them, some over 30 feet tall and weighing more than 80 tons. But the real technological puzzle isn't just carving them, it's how an ancient, isolated society with no wheels, no large animals and no metal tools moved these giants for miles across rugged terrain. The Moai were carved between 1300 and 1600 AD from a single quarry. After being sculpted, these multi-ton statues were moved up to 11 miles to their ceremonial platforms called ahu. For centuries, how they did it was one of archaeology's biggest puzzles. The island is oral traditions said the statues were commanded by a chief with divine power and they simply walked to their spots. For a long time, this was dismissed as a myth. But what if it was literally true? Early theories assumed they were dragged on wooden sleds over rollers. But in recent years, experimental archaeology has brought the walking theory roaring back to life. Archaeologists Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo noticed that the unfinished Moai found along the island's roads were shaped differently. They had fatter bodies and angled bases that made them lean forward. They argued this was a design feature, not a mistake. In a brilliant experiment, they showed that with just 3 ropes and a small, coordinated team, a multi-ton replica Moai could be made to walk. By rocking it from side to side while pulling forward, the statue shuffles along, one laborious step at a time. It's an ingenious solution, a perfect blend of physics and clever engineering. This method fits the local legends perfectly, and also explains why so many statues are found fallen over along the ancient roads. One wrong pull and the whole thing would topple over. The technology of the Moai wasn't anti-gravity. It was human ingenuity at its finest. It was the technology of understanding leverage, balance and momentum. It was the social technology of organizing teams to work in perfect rhythm. The Rapa Nui people, completely isolated, developed a unique and elegant solution to a massive engineering problem, proving that with enough cleverness, you can make stone walk. The Dendera Light. Deep in the crypts beneath a temple in Dendera, Egypt, there are carvings that have sparked a fiery debate. To a modern eye, these images look uncannily like a huge, sophisticated light bulb. Known as the Dendera Light, these carvings are a cornerstone for theories that the ancient Egyptians knew about electricity. The reliefs show large, transparent, bulb-shaped objects. Inside each bulb is a wavy line, like a filament, extending from a lotus flower socket. This is all connected by a cable to a boxy object called a jed pillar. To people who believe in the ancient electricity theory, the image is a clear schematic, a glass bulb, a filament, a socket, and a power source. It's an intriguing idea. After all, these crypts are pitch black. The standard explanation is that Egyptians used torches and oil lamps, but the ceilings here are mysteriously free of soot. So how did the artists see what they were doing? Could these carvings be a diagram of the very smokeless lights they were using? Mainstream Egyptologists, however, read this image in a completely different way. They argue it's a standard piece of religious symbolism. In their view, the bulb is the womb of the sky goddess Nut. The lotus is a symbol of creation. The serpent inside represents the life force of a god being born. The jed pillar is the backbone of the god Osiris, symbolizing stability. The whole scene isn't a technical diagram. It's a mythological story about the creation of the universe. While the mythological explanation fits perfectly with what we know about Egyptian art, it doesn't quite silence the nagging questions. Why does this particular image look so much like modern technology? And why hide it away in a secret underground crypt? The Dendera Light sits at a fascinating crossroads between science and mythology. Whether it's a religious icon or a lost blueprint, it forces us to wonder if the ancient Egyptians understood the forces of nature in ways we've yet to rediscover. We're halfway through, and the mysteries are only getting weirder. If you're enjoying this trip into the unexplained, do us a favor and hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss the mind-blowing artifacts in our top 5. What do you think the Dendera light is? Let us know your theory in the comments. Now back to the countdown. The stonework of Pumapunku, high in the mountains of Bolivia, over 12,000 feet up, lie the ruins of a site so precise, some have claimed it must be alien. This is Pumapunku. Mainstream archaeologists date it to around 500 AD, but it's not the age that's so stunning. It's the almost unbelievable quality of the stonework. The site is a jumble of enormous stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, made of incredibly hard andesite and red sandstone. What's so mind-bending is how they were cut. The precision is so perfect that you can't slip a razor blade between the stones. They feature perfectly straight edges, complex internal angles, and surfaces polished smooth as glass. The most famous features are the H-blocks. These are complex identical stones that look like they were mass-produced. The precision suggests they were made using some kind of template or prefabrication, a concept that was centuries ahead of its time. How could an ancient culture, without power tools or lasers, create such intricate and standardized blocks from one of the hardest stones on Earth? Archaeologists suggest they used simple but painstaking techniques, like stone hammers, and then grinding the surfaces flat with sand and water. But to achieve this level of perfection on such a huge scale would have taken an unimaginable amount of time and a mastery of geometry that is hard to wrap your head around. Then there's the problem of transport. The quarries were miles away, with the hardest stone coming from a quarry nearly 90 kilometers across Lake Titicaca. Moving a 130-ton block would be a challenge for modern engineers, let alone an ancient civilization. Because the technology seems so advanced, Pumapunku is a favorite of ancient astronaut theorists, who argue only alien power tools could do the job. But while that's a fun idea, the reality of human achievement here is arguably even more impressive. Pumapunku forces us to reevaluate what we think ancient people were capable of. It's a shattered testament to an engineering skill that borders on the impossible. The underground city of Derinkuyu. Imagine this: you re-renovating your home in Turkey in 1963. You knock down a basement wall and find not more storage space, but a dark tunnel leading deep into the earth. That's exactly what happened to one man, and what he discovered was the entrance to the largest underground city in the world, Derinkuyu. This place is an absolute marvel of ancient engineering. Carved out of soft volcanic rock, Derinkuyu goes down at least 18 levels, reaching a depth of over 280 feet. It was a fully functional city that could house up to 20,000 people, plus their livestock and food. It had everything: homes, stables, churches, wine presses, storage rooms, and even a school. The design is what's truly genius. First, the ventilation. A series of deep shafts provided fresh air to every single level, and they still work perfectly today. These shafts also served as wells, giving the city a secure water source that couldn't be poisoned from the surface. Then there are the defenses. Derinkuyu was built as a massive bunker. The passages are narrow and confusing to bottleneck any invaders, but the best part is the doors. At key points, the builders carved massive circular stone doors weighing up to half a ton. These doors could be rolled into place from the inside to seal off a corridor, making them nearly impossible to move from the outside. Who built it is still up for debate. It was used over the centuries by different groups, like early Christians fleeing persecution, but its origins are likely much older, possibly dating back to the Phrygians or even the Hittites around 1200 BC. And Derinkuyu isn't alone. It's the largest of over 200 underground cities found in the region, many connected by tunnels that run for miles. Much of Derinkuyu itself remains unexplored. It represents a technology of survival on an epic scale, a testament to the incredible will of ancient people to protect themselves from whatever was happening on the surface. The Great Pyramid of Giza. No list of ancient wonders would be complete without the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing for over 4,500 years, it's the last survivor of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Built for the pharaoh Khufu, its construction is one of history's greatest engineering puzzles. The sheer scale is mind-boggling. It's made of about 2.3 million stone blocks, most weighing several tons, with some granite beams inside weighing up to 80 tons. The central mystery has always been, how did the Egyptians quarry, transport, and assemble these massive blocks with such precision using only basic tools? The pyramid's alignment alone is a work of genius. It's oriented to true north with an accuracy of within 3/60th of a degree, better than any other ancient structure. The internal layout of corridors and chambers is equally impressive, presenting huge logistical challenges. For years, the go-to theory involved giant ramps, either one long straight one or a spiral one wrapping around the pyramid. But both ideas have problems. A straight ramp would have been a bigger construction project than the pyramid itself, and a spiral one would have made it impossible to keep the pyramid's angles precise. Recent discoveries are starting to clear things up. Archaeologists have found evidence of a lost branch of the Nile River that once flowed right up to the Giza Plateau. This would have allowed them to float the massive blocks on boats almost directly to the construction site. While some recent and highly debated studies suggest there might be vast, undiscovered structures deep beneath the plateau, the discovery of this ancient waterway is a huge leap in our understanding. The Great Pyramid isn't just a big pile of rocks. It's a monument to a civilization's mastery of logistics, math, and engineering. It represents a technology of organization on a scale that's almost hard to imagine today. It's a humbling reminder that with vision and generations of effort, ancient people achieved things that still defy our expectations. The Antikythera Mechanism. In 1900, Greek sponge divers found an ancient Roman shipwreck off the coast of the island Antikythera. Amidst the statues and pottery, they brought up a corroded lump of bronze. It wasn't until a year later, in 1901, that an archaeologist realized this was something special. It sat in a museum for decades,